In this lesson, we're going to look at sex-linked traits and answer the question of why males are more likely to be colorblind. As a review, remember that sex chromosomes determine your gender, X and Y make a male, and two X's make a female. So what are sex-linked traits? These are ones that are on either the X or the Y chromosome. However, the Y chromosome doesn't really have much on it, so we're really only going to be concerned with ones that are on the X. Some examples are color blindness, which is actually fairly common, hemophilia, which is a condition in which your blood doesn't clot and you can just bleed and bleed, and muscular dystrophy, in which your muscles atrophy or go away. And these are all sex-linked recessive traits. So in hemophilia, your body does not make a certain protein that helps it clot. Muscular dystrophy, as you can see, ends with the individual, their muscles go away, and generally these individuals die in childhood. And if you don't see a number here, you have red-green color blindness. Now we're going to write these in a different way. So we're going to start by indicating what chromosomes the individual has. So if it's a male, we're going to put these, and if it's a female, we're going to put these. For a dominant trait, we're going to put, instead of just a big letter, we're going to put a big letter above the X. That just shows the person that this is a trait that is on the X chromosome. For recessive trait, we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to put a little letter. So it works the same way. So here we have a female, and we're going to call her homozygous dominant, because again, she has two big H's. If you take away the X's, it's exactly the same as it was before. We're just showing that they're on the X chromosome. This would be a homozygous recessive female, and this would be a heterozygous female. We're also going to call these carriers, and that's because this woman is carrying the recessive trait, in this case maybe for hemophilia. But she herself does not have it because she has the dominant trait. Now here we have a male, and notice that there is no allele on the Y chromosome, because again, the Y has different genes. And so we're not going to call males homozygous dominant or heterozygous because they only have one allele. So he's just going to either have the trait, the dominant trait, or have the recessive trait. Those are the only two ways that a male can be. So this is how we write all the different possibilities. Exactly the same way, we're just adding X's and Y's. Now we need to look at who is more likely to get these kind of traits. And it turns out that males are. And that's because males only have one X chromosome. Females, on the other hand, have to actually be homozygous recessive to get a recessive trait, meaning they have to inherit it from both parents. Males only have to inherit it from one. So if we look here, here's my female with two X chromosomes. Let's say she inherits one recessive from one parent. She doesn't necessarily get the trait because she most likely will inherit a dominant from the other parent. This is the only way that she can be recessive. She has to inherit it from both parents. A male, on the other hand, notice that the Y has different genes, which means he only has to inherit it from one parent to get the trait, which means that males are much more likely to get these traits. Now let's look at how they're actually inherited. Now first off, if we're going to have a male, the dad is actually the one that determines the sex of the baby. If he gives a Y chromosome, it's a male. If he gives an X chromosome, it's a female. The mom, however, is the one that determines the traits of the son. So if she gives the big H, that's a normal male. If she gives her little h, then that male has hemophilia. So in this case, the mom has a 50-50 chance of giving the son hemophilia. Now with a daughter, notice that the dad has given her his X, which had a recessive, and the mom can either make a carrier female or an affected female. And what's important to note here is the only way that a female can be affected by a sex-linked recessive trait is that her dad has to have it. Because her dad gives her one of the X's, and that's the only one that he has. So this dad has hemophilia, and that's the only way that the female could get hemophilia. So let's do a Punnett square. The Punnett squares work exactly the same way. We're going to look at hemophilia. So here we have a female who is a carrier for the trait, and I'm going to highlight the recessive trait in red, and a normal male. So we set it up exactly the same way. Now what I generally recommend is people put the X's and Y's in first, then go back and put the alleles. But you can do it however. It works the same way, you just bring them down. And now in this case, notice we have 50% of the offspring are expected to be female and 50% male. It's always going to be the case. And in this case we have one male who's affected, one male and one female who are unaffected or normal, and both the mother and the daughter are carriers. So again, Punnett squares work the exact same way. All you got to do is just remember to put in the X's and Y's.